But I'm really excited to have the Housing Initiative Partnership here today. They have a really creative solution to the housing crisis here in Montgomery County. And a lot of the solutions that we're looking at with affordable housing will take a long time to put into effect, right? They're not immediate responses. But what's neat about the programs with this nonprofit is that they have some immediate ways that people can help and be involved. So I'm excited for Michelle Higgs here to present to us. She's the Community Outreach Coordinator for HIP, and I'm going to let her take it from here, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end.
Excellent. Thank you, Kate. Thanks, everyone. As Kate said, I'm Michelle Higgs, Community Outreach Coordinator for the Housing Initiative Partnership's Home Sharing Program. I actually have about 30 years experience in the housing industry, working with low-income clients, going from working with homeowners, apartment owners who own small properties that they make available to low-income people, to creating computer technology centers on HUD properties around the country, to working with public housing organizations, and now with the housing industry as regards home sharing, which is a totally different way of working. The joy of this is that we are working with homeowners who are usually aging in place, and they have spare bedrooms at their homes that they would be interested in sharing with someone who is looking for an affordable place to live. Now, during this period of COVID, when people were losing their jobs and income was flying out the window, this was very necessary because they needed to find something that would help them to live affordably. And you had seniors who were living in isolation and they needed some company. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see my PowerPoint, and I will talk as we go along. Let's see. Okay. All right. This is the beginning of our PowerPoint. And we say that this program is more than just a room. And we say that because not only does it provide a place for someone to live, but we hope that it creates community for the homeowner and community for the renters, so that you're not just having a roof over your head, but someone to have coffee with, someone to talk with, someone to turn on the lights in the evening so you come home and it's not just a cold, empty space. Now, Housing Initiative Partnership is an innovative green nonprofit housing developer and counseling agency based in Prince George's County. And we're dedicated to revitalizing neighborhoods. How HIP creates housing and economic security for low and moderate income households and provides services that improve the quality of life in the community we serve. Our vision is that we believe that every person should have affordable, healthy, and safe housing. Now, we do a multitude of things, and I'll just tick off the list here. We do affordable multifamily development and resident services. We create new construction and single-family home rehabilitation. We do we are a HUD-approved housing counseling agency, providing such services as rental and eviction prevention counseling, home buyer education and counseling, and home sharing program, and mortgage and foreclosure prevention counseling, and the housing stabilization program, which is homelessness prevention. Now, what is home sharing? Home sharing is an innovative idea where homeowners offer a spare room or accessory dwelling unit in their home to rent to home seekers searching for affordable, healthy, and safe housing for longer than 6 months. And I would mention here that these are two strangers sharing. This isn't bringing in a cousin or an uncle. This is someone who is not a member of your home, and you're taking them in for 6 months or longer. Our housing counselors work with both the homeowner and the home seeker to navigate the process of finding a compatible match. And we use remote technology in many cases and offer neutral guidance and free advice to find a successful match using this thoughtful and engaging process. And basically I always say we embrace this process. We talk with every person who expresses an interest in this program to learn about who they are, what they want, and what their needs are. Home sharing can reduce social isolation, create a monthly income for the homeowner, and generate new and affordable housing options for home seekers in the Montgomery County area where such options are few. Now, the Montgomery County Home Sharing Program is supported by Montgomery County's Department of Health and Human Services. And as I mentioned, we have remote technology to help us do this. And we offer 4 months of free access to the Silvernest platform, which provides for background checks and lease creators. And just below that is our web address. Now, our process is that we, in the web address you saw there, will give you access to a pre-registration form. And once that form is submitted, that inquiry would come to me, and then I would reach out to the individual and we would have a talk and find out what you're interested in, whether you're coming in as a homeowner or a home seeker. And then I would pass that information on to our housing counselor, who would do an in-depth intake interview with our home owners. It's basically taking a look at your mortgage statement, finding out that everything's in order, you're not in any trouble with your mortgage, and then get a copy of your ID to be sure that you are indeed the owner of that property. With the renter, it's a little more in depth. We go through a housing counseling session with each renter. We do a background check, a credit check. We check their income to be certain that they are actually earning sufficient funds and using their budgets well enough to be able to afford a unit. And then we help to create a profile. And that would be on the Silvernest platform. And the Silvernest platform allows you to look at the homeowners or the home seekers and determine through the platform what you think a match would be. And Silvernest also makes suggestions once there's because it is an electronic platform, so they have their own little algorithm that will make a suggestion as to who might be a good match. And then the housing counselors can still step in and see what would be an ideal match, looking at what Silvernest suggests, looking at what we know about the individuals. And then we could suggest, well, maybe this person would work. Well, maybe the rent's too high here. Let's see what we can do to negotiate something lower. And depending on how that process goes, we would help to finalize the home sharing arrangement. The leases can be they can be created in the Silvernest platform, but we can also work to create an agreement and a lease that would be suitable for the Maryland laws and create a lease that both parties would be willing to sign. And then when we get to sustaining the match, we circle back every 30 days to see that everything's going well. Once the match is made, we circle back in 30 days to see if the rents have been paid, if everybody's getting along. And then if that's working out, then we'll circle back again. And it's basically to be sure that that the match is being sustained. And we want it to be successful. We want the matches to go from at least 6 months. We want that to be the benchmark, the first benchmark, and then on to a year. We actually have one match that's been going on for longer than a year. So that's ideal to create a relationship that lasts a little longer. Now, the benefits of home sharing for the homeowners, as I mentioned before, it increases sense of security and reduces social isolation. So there's actually somebody in the house with you. It would create another stream of income for the homeowner. And we help to locate a housemate that could possibly share light housekeeping or assistance with errands in exchange for reduced rent. Because sometimes we have folks that are looking to rent, and still the rent that the homeowner wishes to charge is a little in excess of what they have. So we work with the homeowner to see if there's a task or two tasks that someone can perform to perhaps bring the rent down to a more reasonable level. Now, for the home seeker, it creates a new affordable housing option in an expensive rental market, number one. And then we connect home seekers with owners to create a mutually beneficial relationship. As I said, it's creating community. It's creating an opportunity to share your space and share your story with someone else. And then we're getting to community. It strengthens neighborhoods by offering an efficient use of existing housing that helps people remain in their homes and to find affordable housing. Now, how we help: HIP certified housing counselors offer free advice to help homeowners and home seekers identify their personal preferences, navigate the online matching platform to create a compelling profile, to carefully assess potential matches to identify compatible housemates, and to arrange in-person home visits to evaluate space, take photos for the profile, and facilitate meetings between homeowner and home seeker. Then we finalize an appropriate home sharing agreement. And we facilitate communication and mediate if necessary to support a match throughout its life. We aim to increase the likelihood of a successful match through a thoughtful consideration of participants' preferences, needs, responsibilities, and rights. Now, this is one of our clients, and this is an illustration of one of the things that we do. As a matter of fact, we had a situation today where we went out to visit a client and take pictures of their property. Here we have the front door, we have the common area, we have the kitchen, we have the bedroom, and then another view of the bedroom. And what we do is post this. This is if we were doing it on the Silvernest platform. They have it set up so that you can give a description of the home. You can talk about the amenities. Here we have air conditioning, free parking. She's got on-street parking, washer and dryer to share. She has a beautiful patio garden in the back. And then it tells how much the monthly rent is, how much the deposit is. And then it talks about, how long they want to rent. In this case, she's like month to month, 6 months, more than a year. She's very open. And so this is illustrating what we do. We give advice and counsel. We do make a home visit. We take photos, we take a video, and then we offer other service referrals. In this case, I think this individual was looking at homeowners tax credits. That's one of the things she was looking at. And so whatever resources that we have as a housing counseling agency, we can make available to the people who are signing up for our program. Now, what we do now, which is even, I guess, more comprehensive than this, is that we provide a marketing and outreach flyer. And we do these monthly and post them in public places like libraries, supermarkets, and businesses in targeted areas. And these are like little capsules of properties that are available. And in it, we will give a picture of the most interesting room would be the kitchen. Everybody wants to know about the kitchen, and perhaps the bedroom if it's available, and tell a little bit about what the property offers. Let's see, in Germantown, you've got an open room, a private bath, a private entrance, kitchenette and shared laundry, and it's near a bus, the 58 and the 61. So if it's on-street parking or if there's a bus close by, people are interested in knowing that. If they don't have a car, they need to know that there's a bus not too far away. And we have been doing this kind of flyer for the last few months, but most recently, we found it's even more effective to highlight a property. So we continue to do these for each month, like we just did one for October. But we also have been highlighting properties so that we would have this Germantown property would have a flyer of its own, and there would be more pictures and more of a description so that, say, for instance, the homeowner attends a church and he wants to, distribute the flyer among his congregants, and or perhaps he belongs to a certain ministry in the church and he'd like to let the folks in his ministry know that he has a room and he'd be interested in sharing. Then that particular flower would have his property alone. Or we can make these flyers available to distribute among your parishioners, and they can just reach out to us. The information for contacting us is always at the bottom of the flyer. It would be myself or my colleague at the number that I showed at the beginning. And it's 301-85-SHARE, which we thought was really fun. But on the last slide, it will show what that number is, 301-857-4273. And here's our email address. And this is our website. And if you want to check us out on Facebook, you can check us there too. And on the Facebook page, you'll see some of these photos. These are different opportunities that we've gone out into community to spread information about the program. We've gone to senior centers, we've gone to libraries, we go to events, we do the farmers markets. We're always out in the community sharing information about this program, because the more people that know about it, the more people will be helped. And that's the main concern, is that we still have, even though we have a number of folks who have matched already, there are still many more who need to be matched. And so the point of trying to speak to as many groups as I can is to get the word out. And I'm always available to answer questions. This number, if it does not, if I don't pick it up, it goes directly to a voicemail, and I will get back to you in 24 hours. And that's always the case. If you have anyone who is interested, they can always call me, and that is my direct number to the program. So this is our office address. Prince George's County is our main office at 6525 Bellcrest Road. Then the Montgomery County office, which is where I operate from, is the Up-County Regional Service Centers on 12900 Middlebrook Road. And then there's a third office in Montgomery County in Gaithersburg on East Timon Avenue. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm going to encourage folks to unmute themselves. I saw Amon just muted herself, or use the chat to go ahead and ask questions.
I was just going to make a comment, Michelle. I'm sure you are probably aware of the problem or the challenge we've had within our county. So I absolutely love this program. It's a brilliant idea. And my only question to yourselves would be, is it possible for us to have basic information about the program and contact details so we can share that through our faith group newsletters? Because I know there are many families, especially in our community, with large homes, and I'm pretty sure they would love to know more about this initiative.
I'd be happy to. Yeah, we have a basic flyer and information to share, as well as the marketing piece I showed you with the various photographs of the houses that are available now. And that could be part of a package that I would send out to you. Okay. Shall I send it with you, Kate, or directly?
Yeah, I'm happy to send it out after the call
Okay.
and
Great.
include it in
Thank
our
you.
newsletter.
Thank you for requesting that.
What counties do you run this program in? Just Prince George's and Montgomery?
Just Montgomery. Right now, it's just Montgomery. We
Okay.
are hoping to expand into PG, but right now it's in Montgomery.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you have a student clientele, students who are attending colleges?
We have a few. Right now I have I'll say this, we have inquiries. I have one student who just moved here from California. And he had checked out one of our homeowners on the UMed, the University of Maryland database. And he is now renting with one of our homeowners. And I have another young woman who was an AmeriCorps student. And I think the young man was in his 20s. He was 24. This was his first time renting. And the young woman, I think, is in her late 20s, and she was AmeriCorps, a volunteer. And she took the space that I just showed you in Germantown. And she just started renting about a month ago. So those are the two that have already completed the process. What I have found in the past, when I had students coming on board, they had no income at all. And they do have to have some sort of income, whether it's their, savings or parents or something, because they have to be able to be responsible for the rent. And so in these cases, they both are working. The young man who just moved in had just started a new job, and he's working, and the AmeriCorps volunteer is also starting a new job. But they're both young. Mm-hmm. And we've also visited all of the Montgomery College campuses.
Oh, you did.
And we talked with those young people. Then in many cases, they're not ready. They're 18 and they're not ready. But we sort of put that idea in their head to start thinking about, saving their money and getting ready to do that. And if they need to take a step before they're looking for an apartment, this might be an interim idea for them to move into a home with someone else and save their money and then be ready to move into their own apartment. So it's a possibility for them.
I would encourage folks to continue to unmute yourselves and ask questions or use the chat. A question I've heard a few times, Michelle, and I know I've asked you this already, but people often are looking for housing for newcomers, whether it be the Texas, Arizona newcomers or Afghan newcomers. And I know that's a challenge for you all to coordinate with, but I just wanted you to speak to that if you don't mind.
Yeah, and we get those calls, and we do the best we can to address them. In some cases, there's a language barrier, and we have to overcome that. I remember early on in my tenure with this program, I was dealing with a gentleman who had a family, and that's also a question, because what happens with the homeowners, if they're predominantly older women, and they're not interested in having more than one person to rent their home. So if we're talking about a family, sometimes that causes a problem, unless they have like a basement that has a lot of room for, a mother, a father, and a child. But second to that is the language barriers and trying to get someone who's understanding and can do the translations and things along those lines. We have had folks inquire about housing situations. I think I had one woman from oh dear, what's the country now that was we're having problems with? Um, the Lord, it just went out of my head. But in any case, she had a daughter and she was looking for a place and she wanted a specific place that was near a school for her daughter. And it just was not in our inventory. It wasn't what we didn't have exactly what she needed. And it turned out that she had someone in her faith community who was able to connect her. But a lot of times, word spreads about our program within faith communities, which is why I was interested in doing this, because we've had a number of connections, matches that we made that were made because somebody in the church said to somebody in the church, gee, why don't you call these people? And we were able to find a pair that could match, and it all worked out. So to answer your question, we have opportunities available. It's just a matter of getting someone who has income and can pay the rent. I mean, that's the bottom line, is that these homeowners, despite wanting to do good, they still, have their challenges and still need to get some sort of income to augment their mortgage payments. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
I see that Carol put in the chat, she asked about the process of screening the home shares and the homeowners and what that process is.
Okay, we went to with the homeowners, it's relatively simple. As long as they have up-to-date mortgage and an ID that proves that they are indeed the owner, then that's pretty much cut and dried, because we have access to that kind of information. With the renter, we do a housing counseling session in which we take a look at least 4 pay stubs for the last month. So we see that for the last 30 days, they earn this much money. And we do a credit check to see where they are in terms of their credit rating. And we do a background check, a criminal background check, to see that they, don't have any felonies or things that would raise an eyebrow. And we do a housing history check to be sure that they have basically treated their last landlord well. So there are those 4 measures that when we are checking out someone who wants to rent. So I'll go back over them again. It's the housing counseling session, which teases out a housing history check, a background check, their income and expenses, and credit check. So that's 4 different things that we look at. And if those things match and there's no red flags, then we will go ahead and suggest a person to a homeowner. And once we go through that, and I was mentioning earlier, we talk to everybody who goes through it. So we sort of have a sense of who these people are and what's going on in their lives. And when we get all of those things together, and we have a homeowner over here and we know what they're looking for, then we can sort of put these 2 things together and say, okay, maybe this could be a match. And then we take the homeowner and we offer the homeowner an opportunity to meet the renter. And then we can sort of get a sense of what the chemistry is between those 2 people, get them to meet, talk a little bit about the property, and that may or may not be a match right there, but at least it gives them an opportunity to meet one another. And once that happens, then, it's a yay or nay on somebody's part. We'll get a call from the homeowner and says, Gee, I think I'd like to have her move in. Or the home seeker will say, I really like that property. What do you think? And so then we go on and try to make that happen. And at that point, we're working with both the homeowner and the home seeker to create an agreement and a lease and all of those kinds of steps. And after all of that's created, then we circle back to be sure everything's working. Does that answer your question? Okay.
I saw that Reverend Murray put his question in the chat as well. What if the person is older and would prefer not to live alone? He's working with a professional woman who works evenings and some weekends and would prefer not to live alone.
Mhm. Well, that's pretty much that's the program. You have, let me see. So we have folks who are, is she a homeowner, just to go back to your question, or is she looking for a place to live? Okay. Yeah, that's basically the premise of this program. Even if you are I have a woman who she's a nurse. Going back to the same profession, she's an ER nurse, but she works during the day. And she would just like to have somebody in the house with her. She doesn't want, and we do have to deal with folks' preferences. She doesn't want somebody who cooks a lot. And she doesn't want someone who's home all day, but she does want someone around. So we have to sort of work within those little cracks to see who is going to fit that particular property. And so it's just a matter of putting the pieces together, because the whole point of this is to create community, as I said earlier, so that people aren't living by themselves if they don't want to live by themselves, and hoping that the community that we create is one that's sustainable. And we do that by talking with people, by getting into the weeds with what they're looking for and what they're expecting out of the situation. Does that help you with your question?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
This
cool.
particular nurse actually works evenings and weekends.
Mhm.
And sometimes she gets in, depending on what the schedule is, because nurses never know exactly what they'll be doing work-wise. But
Right.
she doesn't want to come home by herself if it's dark.
I see.
Sometimes they get off it's late at night,
Doesn't want to
11 at night.
navigate. Yeah.
And so just coming to a place where she's not coming into a place by herself.
Right. I get it. So she's not navigating the street by herself and then coming
Right.
in and the house is still dark. Got it. Well, those things, and those are the things that we encourage people to talk about, because that's one of the premises, is that we encourage everyone to be very transparent and open in their communications. So it's like, okay, I work evenings and weekends, and I really would love to smell beans when I come home in the evening. That's my sense of home, smell meat on the stove. And have those conversations, because you may have someone who is a night owl, and watches TV until midnight, and she'll be up when you come home, but you never get that. It's that same old so you get what you ask for. You have sometimes to be clear about what you need. And so that's something that we encourage people to talk about. What is your schedule like? Do you work? I mean, in her case, she works on weekends and evenings. She may not want any noise on Monday morning, and that needs to be negotiated, because the other person may be up and cooking coffee and turn the music up loud. So those things have to be discussed, so that there's no, and because there's always friction, but so that there's less friction about what the living arrangements will be. But that's a question that I always encourage folks to just talk about what you want your life to look like. And we encourage the other person to do the same thing, so that we're on the same page. And that would reduce all kinds of friction.
Okay, I see one more question in the chat.
Mhm.
Percy asks, how is the housing initiative program financed?
We are under a grant from the Department of Health and Human Services and the generous contributions of private donors. So this is I think it's our 3rd year under the grant with DHHS, but we do fundraising and we write grants of all kinds. So it's a pot of funding that we come from.
Reverend Murray, I saw you unmuted yourself. Do you have another question or comment?
Yeah, are the rents whatever market rate is?
No,
Or is it
yeah,
affordable?
Yeah, that's the whole point, is that, rents in Montgomery County are really high, astronomical. And even affordable rents are astronomical.
Mhm.
So our rents would run somewhere between $750 to $1,250, depending on the space, the amenities, where it's located. For instance, I looked today at a basement apartment in Silver Spring, Maryland. And because it had, a separate bedroom, separate bath, little kitchenette, a separate seating room, like a little living room, home dining room, it all would blend together. But it was very close to public transportation. And so that same apartment in Rockville probably would have been a little less. But because of where it was located, because we have, on our staff, we have real estate people, so they sort of know what the going rate is all over the place. And we can judge by what amenities a place has. And this particular home did not have a laundry or dryer, a washing machine or a dryer. So you are expecting whoever is renting this place to, take a ride, or, they can't walk because it's too far out from where this place is, but to drive to a laundromat to get their laundry done, which is an unusual thing not to have in a house. But in this case, it didn't. But because of the space and, what it did have and where it was located, it could possibly go for $1,000. It's rare to have anything, and we have them going, like I said, from $750 up to about $1,250. I think early on we were seeing that amount. But what we also do is, as I said earlier, try to negotiate people down, because that may be a little high for people. And so if there's something that someone can do around the house, or, the task that they can take on to make that go down, then we try to negotiate that for them. But it all depends on where it is, what the amenities are, and we do try to work with the homeowner to make it accessible.
If the person wanting to rent does not want to have a male, if it's a female, for example, and she doesn't want to have a basement apartment where the person upstairs has access and the person upstairs is a male. Do you take those kinds of things into consideration?
Oh, yeah, we get that all the time. We get that all the time. And for the most part, the homeowners, I'm thinking back to in my history, I have very few, I have couples who are owners and women who are owners. I have no single men who are owners. And they're mostly single women, and then a couple of couples. The issues that I have are, the women may not want a male, or as a case I talked with a couple of days ago, she did not want anybody younger than 30. She wanted, she wanted someone who was settled, who wasn't going to have a party, who wasn't going to give her lip if she told him, need to take trash out, and I've heard that a couple of times. So I think people are, particularly women in their, because most of the women that I have who are owning these homes are in their 70s. And, they've been around, around the rodeo for a while, and there's some things they're just not going to take. And so they've decided that, and these are their homes, so they can make these requests. We want to look at people who are settled and working, and, they're going to pay their rent, and they're going to be respectful, and we can't guarantee personalities, but if they've been in the job market for a while, they sort of assume they know how to behave. And so I think we've gotten those questions. So the only things I've gotten is every once in a while, I'll have a woman who will say that she doesn't feel comfortable having a man. But in the basement apartments, usually there's a locked door between the apartment and the basement, and between the owner's home and the basement. And there's that sense of security that they're happy with. And there's been, I have one homeowner who has been the match that has been in existence the longest is a male and a female around the same age. And they've been going along happily for over a year. And so it depends. A lot of things depend.
And what about maintenance?
Maintenance.
Do you inspect? Do you inspect?
I'm sorry, go ahead with your question. Sorry.
Sometimes things are great when the person first moves in, but over time, if there's a problem in terms of something not working or a leak. I had one person who was living in a basement apartment, and we had a hard rain and water started coming in. And the owner was not cooperative, I'll put it that way, in terms of taking care of that. Do you inspect from time to time or check with the person that's renting?
We check with both parties. As I think I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you were on the call, we go back every month and find out, okay, what's going on? Have there been any problems? Is there anything we can help with? And because I go back to, we're a housing counseling agency, so we have access to resources to help mitigate these things. The first resource is us. We go back and we talk with both parties. If anything has happened or anything is happening, we expect to be told about it. And we stress that at the outset. If something goes wrong, we're your first resource. Call us and, we'll step in and see what we can do. Secondly, we are now starting to look at creating a program through which we help owners we call it a room ready fund. And that's for some homeowners who have a space that they like to rent, but they're not ready yet. Either they need help clearing it out, or they need to paint it, or they need to spackle it, or they need to do very light stuff, not necessarily plumbing or, big stuff, but little things that we can help with. So we had just gotten a green light on putting that kind of funding together. That may or may not address the kind of repairs that you're talking about.
No, I didn't have anything specific in mind. I just wanted to make sure that the place would be well kept in terms of.
Oh yeah. That's the whole idea between the check-ins. That's the whole idea behind that, just to be sure that, say for instance, I had a homeowner who had, she had a renter in her place who was complaining because she had allergies. And that is certainly not on our plate. That's not on our plate. Talk to your doctor. But this homeowner, in order to accommodate this renter, now she took this on herself. We didn't, jump in and say, you should sand your floors. But she took it on herself to replace the rugs because apparently this woman had been paying her rent and she was, willing to accommodate her.
Okay.
So there are things, again, this is a very organic process now.
Right.
And we just work together. We work together. This particular homeowner has, she's sort of taken responsibility for making this work. And and she works with us. She's on, I have her on speed dial. I know her number by heart. And so we work together to make this work. We work with the homeowner, we work with the renter. But that check-in is key to making things go smoothly.
What about religion?
Once again,
What about religion? If someone is Muslim and the person renting is Christian, is that going to pose a problem?
only if you make it. We talk with the homeowners. We asked them at one point early on, we asked them about religion. And then at one point, we stopped asking because unless there's some conflict in the way you conduct your life, I mean, if you have to burn incense all the time and that's a problem for the homeowner, then those things may need to be worked out, or they may be something that you need to talk about in the initial interview, because that's a part of being transparent. That I don't even want to I don't want you to fry in my home, or those kinds of things. I don't want there to be any pork in my home. And that's something you have to talk with your home. Those are issues that you have to talk about, because if they're two different religions doing two different things, then it may cause some sort of friction that doesn't need to be. I've had similar presentations for the Jewish community, and the thought is that if you want to be in a Jewish home and you want to be in a kosher home, then that's something that's going to have to be worked out. It's like, okay, well, I run a kosher kitchen, or I run a kosher household, and these things happen in my house on Fridays, and I don't turn the lights on until Saturday night. So that has to be discussed. But these are the things that we talk about with the homeowner and home seeker to find out if there is an issue that we need to bring to the table for someone who is looking to rent a space in your home. Does that help?
Yes.
Like,
Thank you. I have 2 more questions in the chat. So last call for questions. So feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand or put them in the chat. But Jennifer wants to know if the rent rates increase annually.
not necessarily. This is the homeowner's province, and I can only respond to the homeowner whom I know has rented for more than a year, and she did not raise her rent. And that's something that we can talk about with the homeowner at the outset of the agreement. It's not written into the lease that it will increase. It's only if the homeowner decides to do it.
Great. And then, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, we have had that happen, and the renter decided to move out because he didn't think he could afford it. So he chose a lower price property.
Aman asked, do you have a list of how many matches that you all have had to date or have currently?
I do. We have so far gotten 10 matches, and that is because it's a process. As I'm describing all of this to you, we have to talk to each of the homeowners, talk to each of the home seekers, go through the process of application. And so this is a well-considered process. And so we have completed 10 matches, and I think we've got about 2 more on the burner now.
And then can you speak to some of the challenges experienced both by homeowners and rental seekers?
Well, the rental seekers is easy, the cost. So many times you can't address the cost. And often you'll have families who want to move into a home, and a homeowner is just not willing to accept more than 2 people, like a mother and child or father and child. They'll go for a husband and wife, they'll go for, but a mother and 4 children, they're not going for that. And babies, a lot of times homeowners are not willing to take babies in because they're seniors, they're in their 70s, they've done the babies, and they are not open to having families with babies. So those are the main issues with the renters. With the homeowners, it's just getting the kind of person that they're looking for. I have, many times, as I said before, the homeowners are predominantly women in their 70s or even 80s, and they want security. And even though we can assure them that we are going to turn these homeowners, these renters upside down and inside out to find out, what their background is, what their housing history is, and so forth, they still want to be protected. And we can offer them that. We even go so far as to when we put the flyers together, we don't even put names on them. We just, so that you don't feel unsafe about it. And we also offered to put a pseudonym if you just want to say your name is Brenda instead of Susan, if that's what you want, because it helps us to be able to identify the property if we know who it belongs to. But the issue with homeowners, as I mentioned earlier, some of them aren't ready to rent. They really would like to, but they have some structural things that have to be addressed in the property. And we're trying to help do that because we've seen it happen too many times that folks have a space, but it just needs to be freshened up. And if you slap some paint on it, or put shore up the deck, or fix the rails or something like that, then it would be ready to go. But without that, nobody's ready to take it on. We did have an issue early on with COVID that has sort of abated. At first, people were really uncertain about having people rent in their homes, but now that's somewhat, gone aside. And that seems to be, the major thing. I'm just talking to people, and what happens, I find, is that sometimes a homeowner will come right up to the brink of doing this and go, I don't know if I'm ready yet. So they want to do it. It sounds like a good idea. And then, maybe their son says, I don't know whether you should do this. And I've talked to many older women who said, my son doesn't want me to do this, but I'm going to do this. I think it would be good, to have the company and help somebody. And so sometimes they have to, run in the other direction from their children to do what they'd like to do. And I find that empowering. I really do. I find it empowering. But that's that would be the only challenge I see, is that, sometimes people go into it and then think, well, that we're not going to take care of them, but we do. We do.
Well, I think those are all the questions that we have. Feel free to add any last minute questions in the chat, and we can get answers to you in a follow-up email. But we really appreciate all of you for attending. Michelle, we really appreciate your time and your work. We
Thank
know that
you.
this is a really challenging county for folks to find somewhere to live. I'm in the process right now of finding somewhere to live in Montgomery County, and I'll tell you, you're not going to see $800 rent posted anywhere. So it's certainly a great option for folks. So we're glad that you're working on this, and
Great.
feel free to send me any resources you want me to send out to the group.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. My pleasure.
And would you mind putting your contact information in the chat?
In the
And
chat,
I'll
okay,
stay on a little
sure.
bit longer just to make sure people can copy it.
Okay, no problem. Let me do this real quick. Oops, spelled my own name wrong.